to sea freight now, and an import-export group is calling for more detail on Labor's proposal for a strategic fleet of ships. Labor leader Anthony Albanese is arguing that Australia needs 12 privately owned and commercially operated ships that can be called upon in emergencies. Paul Zalai from the Freight Alliance says the idea has some merit, but there are a lot of questions about how it would operate.
A dozen ships would, that's a significant investment, but still would hardly scratch the surface on what's needed for the sector. And we're talking about a mix of vessels, some vessels to carry fuel and other bulk liquids, which is very important, some to carry roll-on, roll-off equipment, so basically to carry large equipment, which again could be diversified for use in defence, you would imagine. And then we've got containerised vessels. So out of that dozen vessels, how many of them would be sort of dedicated to containerised trade is unclear. And whether that would even be enough to be commercially viable is the big question. Up against, international shipping lines that have got large fleets of vessels, and furthermore, have alliance arrangements with each other where they can vessel share and get the economies of scale by using mega vessels.
So it's probably going to have to be subsidised significantly by the government. We're hearing it costs about $5 million to run a ship every year. If there's 12 of them, that's $60 million. And then you've got to, I suppose, I don't know who would pay to buy them. So do we know anything about the fundamental sort of financials behind it?
Look, we don't. We've only just been privy to the media release where we're looking to make contact with the Labor government, the shadow infrastructure minister, as we speak.
It's been around, this idea, for a couple of years, though, hasn't it? It was Bill Shorten's idea originally.
Yeah, Bill Shorten ran with it in the last election, and I think you'll find Morrison was able to tear down the arguments at the time. I'm not saying that we should completely abandon the idea. I still think it's worth consideration, but there's a lot of detail that needs to be thought through, and just how, is the government willing to subsidise this arrangement, as you said? We reflect back on the experiences. We did have our own fleet through A&L going back up until the late 1990s, where we did have an Australian fleet, but that was sold off to the French, ironically enough. And now we've got a situation where we're perhaps looking to start from scratch again and develop a service in an era where more and more infrastructure and government assets are being privatised or sold off. We're now looking to actually, I suppose, build up that sovereignty again.
But it'd be a hard sell for the Labor Party because the public, the voters would have to pay.
Yeah, look, again, if this service, was up and running, it depends how it would operate. Would it really run commercially like other shipping lines? Would these other international shipping lines allow them in the mix of their vessel sharing arrangements and their alliances? How would that work in practicality? If you've got vessels that are committed to doing international voyages, you can't just pull them out of service to go and deal with some other issue, or maybe you can. And if that is going to take the priority, how are importers and exporters going to feel about making long-term commitments to a service that could be pulled out at a whim to meet other needs? In their plan, they're saying that they would be establishing a task force with a broad range of stakeholders to work through this detail. Well, there'd be a hell of a lot of detail to work through.
Paul Zalai from the Freight Alliance. You're listening to The Rural Report.